we can have a man and van anywhere within the UK within the hour. This time where we have things like AI at our disposal, we're able to build an awful lot of things ourselves. The plan is for us to replace that completely with all of our own custom built technology we own the IP for. So I had my best performing post is one that I wrote about Asda that got over 20,000 impressions. Haven't paid anything for that.
The Operator Podcast by Circle Cloud.
James, welcome to The Operator by Circle Cloud.
Hey, good morning. Good to be here. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Why don't we start? Why don't you give us the elevator pitch? What is Send It Direct? Give us an intro.
So Send It Direct is an on-demand same-day delivery company. We specialize in moving high-value, big, bulky, fragile and awkward goods across the UK. And we can have a man and van anywhere within the UK within the hour. We've got a large network of vans that we own and sort of subcontract work to across the UK. And they range from sort of 3.5 tons, so the Transit, the long wheelbase Lutons, all the way up to Arctics. So really we position ourselves as a virtual fleet for businesses, strictly business. It might be that they have their own fleet and they need extra support through seasonal peaks of demand, or they don't have a clue about transport, have never had a van or vehicle in their life, and we're in there sort of daily running their operation.
So you cater for both types of those requirements, and you have a number of drivers, let's say, on call. You mentioned, I think, 100 odd drivers on the job, but they're not on payroll per se, are they?
Exactly. Yeah. So we own and employ drivers based in Bristol, and they are sort of PAYE. They drive our own branded Send It Direct vehicles. You see lots of bright orange colours flying around, and that covers a lot of the southwest. But the rest are drivers that we've acquired throughout the business. So we've only been running for sort of 19 months. So we've, due to the growth and the demand, we've had drivers come and look to us for work. And my business partner has been in sort of the logistic transport game for just over 8 years. So he's brought with him lots of drivers that have been used to working for him in more traditional courier companies, should we say, and they use our app and sort of technology to be notified about the work that we have. And we sort of onboard drivers specifically maybe for certain customers, for certain profiles of work. And then if something comes up in their area, then they get sort of issued that and sort of invited to bid or do the job for us.
You mentioned your app and your technology. Can we touch on that? What is it that you built?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting time for us. We're trying to be fairly disruptive within this industry, and it's typically quite traditional. So where my business partner's been before, it's been very traditional, so lots of more paper, old school logistics, should we say. And then at this time where we have things like AI at our disposal, we're able to build an awful lot of things ourselves. So we're in a process at the moment where certain things like a sort of a portal for customers to place bookings, for our drivers have an app that they're able to receive bookings and give updates and PODs, and we're able to track them. And sort of an internal CRM to place bookings on is all things that we've built. And then we still use some off-the-shelf solutions from much larger companies, software companies that have built tech to support more traditional logistic companies. And then the plan is for us to replace that completely with all of our own custom-built technology we own the IP for.
So hold on, are you positioning yourself as a tech company, a same-day delivery company? Are we talking about here the same-day delivery company version of Uber?
Yeah, I mean, there's others in this space. There's others. It's not. There's others that sort of had a good go at it. Some haven't quite got there. We are certainly. There's lots of technology, like I say, that's been played about within this space, and then there's some companies that don't use it at all. So we find like we're in a perfect position whereby we know an awful lot about transport and have people in our operation that have been in transport for 20 plus years. but we've got all this really interesting technology sort of at our disposal. So we want to be able to develop things and really roll it out there and then with customers and get instant feedback from businesses, which is really exciting. Whereas where I was previously, we built an awful lot in isolation. And then that meant that we might roll it out months later, and then the customer says, "Well, that's a load of rubbish. That's no good for me." So, yeah, we are sort of out and out transport, but we would sort of position ourselves at the moment as a tech-enabled sort of same-day delivery business.
I want to touch on the technology and what you've built a little bit more in a second. But first of all, can we just touch on the point of what clients you've landed so far? Because I think you mentioned that if I remember rightly, you said that you have a buildings merchant that has over 100 branches. Is that right? And how do you land a client like that?
Yeah. So yeah, we've got multiple building merchants on, all the top big brands that everyone's very familiar with, and then the groups own lots of other merchants and type businesses. So we've got access to all of those as well. We don't serve every single one. There's absolutely hundreds, but we have the capabilities too because we're in sort of at the top. So regionally, we cover very, very well. And then also there's sort of more independents, and within Bristol, there's one that's got 20 branches, and we're their main supplier. How we got them is a very good question, and certainly for us to get them as quickly as we did, when the big ones have had couriers support them for years. The way that we got one of the largest ones was we were looking at our fleet, and as we say, we are going to be acquiring vehicles and also building this really robust subcontract network. And it's quite easy to find a Transit and a long wheelbase and Lutons. The harder part is obviously great drivers, but it's not impossible to find those types of vehicles. But there's certain vehicles that are more specialist and aren't as easy to find, and certainly aren't as on demand as those. So we assessed the market mainly because of my business partner being in it for so long, and we thought, right, there's certain lengths of goods that are really quite difficult for your long wheelbase and your Lutons to move, and that's from 4.5 to 6 meter lengths. So we bought an adapted 3.5 ton flatbed that has a 5.1 meter bed. So that meant that it could easily take the timber and the sort of the plumbing work, pipes, etc., steel work for these merchants. And they didn't have anyone else who really thought about that. What they would do is either have stuff hanging out the back unsafely of a typical 3.5 ton, say, long wheelbase. They'd be putting stuff diagonally, or they would jump from a 3.5 ton to a 7.5 ton, which is typically double the price. So that is something they hadn't seen, managed to get in with that. And then the pricing was right, the branding was right, the service was great, and we scaled from there.
So hold on. From what I understand, you created or you purchased a vehicle that was suitable for exactly the type of deliveries that they needed to do. So it was the perfect fit in terms of the operational solution. But so that was perfect in terms of what I wanted to understand beyond that is, how did you get them? Did you call them? Did you approach them on LinkedIn? And obviously, once you've got the solution to offer them, I can imagine the way in is it's almost like the sale is done, right? But how did you go in? How did you get you through the door? How did you first initiate the contact?
Yeah, I see. So my main method is face-to-face and turning up and knocking on a door, sometimes unannounced. So funny enough, with this client, it was phone calls, and it was over a 6-month period, and it wasn't being too much of a pest. It was understanding who the right person is to be speaking to. Typically in the building merchant game, it's branch managers, and then just understanding him, what he likes, and then it goes from sort of having his office number. I got his mobile number, and then I just kept checking in, and he said how useful that vehicle could be, but then he needed some demand for that, and then ultimately it came and went from there. But the beauty with the merchant game is that they're used to people. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but they're used to people in construction, business, etc., turning up at a branch, and that's how a lot of them place bookings or orders with that merchant. So for me, just to turn up, unlike an office block or a lawyer, like some of our other clients, that you can't do that as easily. There's no excuse really from a salesman's point of view. You need to be turning up and having conversations with them there and then. That's double prong method.
You go and get the business. You basically show up and say, hey, this is what I've got. This is what I can do. This is how I can help you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. Well, is your background in sales? What is your background? What did you do before this?
Yeah. So I've always been in sales, fairly good at selling, love people and just having positive conversations. And that naturally sort of sales came. So it was account management initially, working with quite high-end brands across initially it was working in a leather goods company as account management, looking after like Asda Martin and McLaren and Sunseeker and quite high-end brands. And then I moved to manufacturing products that we were selling into retail. But again, it's always selling into big businesses. And then the role that got me into sort of the transport world, I was head of sales for a company called Shift based in London, and they were VC backed and they'd raised an awful lot of money, and they were trying to very much disrupt the delivery space and being like Uber, like we were talking about earlier. Uber is the golden North Star for lots of businesses, and that's an easy thing for them to sort of say. So they were trying to do that, but they went out and they were acquiring lots of different delivery businesses. So they bought a same-day delivery company, overnight delivery company, freight, all the rest of it. And they were ultimately, we can get into that later, but they were ultimately spreading themselves too thin. But I was having to manage a sales team there to acquire customers for that business. And there was an awful lot to that because it was growing so rapidly and bolting on lots of other businesses into it. And that sort of the Shift ecosystem, as it was, it grew exponentially. And we ultimately acquired Tufnells and the Yodel brand, which has now been sold to InPost. And I've seen it's recently just lost its branding. It's now just InPost. So there was lots of things learned there. But for the last couple of years, I've just been managing a sales team, whereas now I'm out doing it all again myself. And the dream is to, of course, hire and manage a team again and not do all of that, the door knocking forever.
And what was the moment where you were in the job in London and you thought, I'm leaving this to set up Send It and I'm going back to Bristol, I'm going to do it there? What was the moment that happened? What was going through your head?
So there was a bit of a push and a pull. The business had grown massively, but there was a lack of focus. And I think any one of the things that it was trying to do, if it just focused on one, it would have done well. So I didn't see, my role got quite difficult in the end. And imagine running a sales team, all want to sell, and there's blockers within the operation to that to help them to sell. So there was a bit of a sort of a push there. And then throughout that journey, I had met my now business partner, Ben, and we were talking all the time, and I'd always wanted my own business and had side hustles sort of along the way. And he was like, look, I want to do this now with you. I'm ready. We've got this spot in Bristol, and I'm ready to go for it. If you are. His brother was involved as well, and it was there was a push, there was a pull, and I just clicked absolutely with Ben, and I could see that unlike with other people, he was absolutely immense at the operational side, and I knew that would be bulletproof from day one. I knew that I could sell, add it together, and thought, let's rock and roll. So that's more or less how it came about.
That makes complete sense. It's like it fell into place, didn't it?
Yeah, that's it. After lots of trials with other things, eventually you know when something's right.
It felt right.
Yeah.
And with Ben, the dynamism, it seems like you're pretty well balanced. You know, you're focused more on the sales and people side. He's more the operational side. Is he also in the tech side as well?
Yeah, exactly. So the 5-year plan really is, well, hopefully sooner for Ben, but he's been able to build us lots of the technology, and we have sort of developers that check it, I suppose, and make sure that what he's doing with AI and things is
so
accurate.
he's essentially vibe coding the apps and the tools that you're using?
Yeah.
Or is he already a developer before?
Yeah, no, a lot of it. He has some technical background, but he's certainly not an out-and-out developer. So we've got them in the sidelines, and we've got one that works with us weekly now. But Ben set up the operation, and now his brother James runs that day to day. And we've got a few other people that support taking the booking the jobs, liaising with drivers, etc. And then what we were trying to do and achieve over the next few years is that Ben can very much be just more strategic and oversee the operation and not get pulled into it too much. But at the moment, particularly when we're very busy, as we are, he does. So then it's harder to continue the development roadmap and keep the sort of tenacity behind that. So ultimately, yeah, we want him to be strategic, sort of as I am, be able to float around and then focus on continuing to develop the technology and trialing that with the customers. And then the operation sort of comes and looks after itself.
I think that's the goal with any business, right? If you're starting a business, eventually you want the business to run by itself. You don't want to be in the business. You want to work on the business, not in the business, they say. But yeah. Ben lives in Barcelona, right? So how does that affect the business and your day-to-day right now?
Yeah, correct. So he, again, obviously set it up initially and he was over here, and his partner was living out there. So he was sort of going over there quite a lot. And then ultimately we, because again, as I say, he's been 8+ years in transport. So there was lots of learnings and failures over that time. So that when we got to this stage, a lot of things that we implemented, we knew worked. And the people that we brought in had been in, some of them longer, some of the sort of operational controllers, we call them, have been at longer. And so we knew that would work. And that once we saw that humming, it was just a case of me being able to fill it up with more customers. And yeah, that allowed him to go to Barcelona. He's got an hour. He's typically got an hour on us as well. So when he wakes up, he's an hour ahead, so can have a bit more time to plan and check in with people. And then he sees it sort of as things come in. We've got a phone line that rings wherever you are. So there's nothing that prevents him from being there. It's just the face-to-face stuff, which is my role really anyway. So yeah, he's there as much as he needs to be. And that's the dream, really, that we can. I recently spent a month out there with my partner and son, and he's got a little office space in Barcelona, and it's a really nice sort of tech hub. And we would hope to be able to launch deliveries out in sort of Barcelona, Spain, over the next couple of years as well. So yeah, there's no reason. That's the whole point of a business, is that ultimately it's set up to work for you and allow you to be flexible with your goals and aspirations. So yeah, I'm very pleased for him, and just not so much the tan that he has, but yeah, no, it's all.
Well, Barcelona is beautiful, and it's nice most of the year. I mean, I'm from Lloret de Mar, which is about an hour north of Barcelona, and it gets cold, I guess, December and January. Maybe, I mean, I've been in the sea in January and February there, so it can get warm, but it also can get a bit cold. But the rest of the year is beautiful. It's just nice, pleasant. In the summer, it gets a bit hot. Maybe July and August, it's a bit hot, September. But it's just a nice temperature, nice climate, nice environment. In terms of like people are just more relaxed, and you have a nicer lifestyle out there than in terms of the climate and I guess the pace of life than you have here in the UK. It's a bit more stressed here in the UK, and the weather is a bit grey and dull. But anyway, but so the long-term goal for you is to spend more time out there and being able to have the flexibility to do that?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to do, we'll have an annual meeting there, and I would like to be able to go out and sort of have, I suppose, the brainstorming, some more strategic sessions with Ben and James, a partner out there. And it depends if the weather continues like it is over here. I think the last couple of months have been pretty good. Not need, but yeah, the the overall lifestyle, the cost of things, the cost and the quality is just amazing. So yeah, definitely want to be able to go out there more and potentially other European countries.
And what is if you looking back at Ben, the founder dynamics between you two, what's the biggest disagreement that you've ever had and how have you resolved it?
We haven't really had any, certainly no major disagreements. We talk things through. We're very open and honest. And I've been in sort of businesses before where everyone just sort of bows down to the founder, or is afraid to sort of say no and confront things. So we're very open and honest. And yeah, we haven't. I mean, there must have been sort of little things along the way. We have debates around certain things, like the whole continue to employ drivers versus sort of this sort of freelance subcontract model. So we'll always look and debate that, but then there's a lot of data to support. And again, technically, we might think, oh, this is a good idea, but again, we can go out to customers and sort of sense check that. So yeah, rubbish answer, but we haven't really had any major disagreements. We're very good at talking things through.
I think the essence is in what you said when you said we talk things through. And if you have open communication and you talk things through with your co-founder, you literally, you always must find the solution because you can just talk it through. And that's, I think, the best approach. So that's probably the reason you haven't had a disagreement, because you said it upright.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, I trust him in the ops. I might critique some things or question, I suppose, is the best word to frame it. I'll question things. Why do we do that? I know you've done this for the last 8 years, but is that the right thing to do? And he's happy to sort of look at that and reflect upon it. And then equally in sales, it's James, or they call me Garbs. What about this guy? Where are we at with that? And I like that. So yeah, but we know that we're good. And like I say, I've done well on the sales side. He's done well in the operation. So we can leave each other to. We know it's owned and we're doing it well.
So you trust each other as experts, but you still challenge each other now and again, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And what about you mentioned on our last chat that your business is a bit seasonal. Is that the case? And how do you handle the seasonalities with your business? Yeah,
it's really interesting because even though we're in our second year now, even though I keep adding customers in, and we've doubled in size, it doesn't seem to matter too much. Ultimately, we'll get to a size where it is just busy every day. But it doesn't seem to matter too much. There's the obvious businesses that are super seasonal and particularly due down to the weather, but it does seem that most businesses are busy at a similar time. And particularly when you're starting out, especially the first year, it was very much noticeable, that difference. And it's leveling out a bit more now. How do we sort of deal with it? I suppose we don't get too excited with the profits that we're making in the busy months, and we average that out over the year. We also use that time to reflect and double down on things like the technology, recruiting drivers, the brand, marketing, and work on other things like that, recruitment. So yeah, there's plenty to be doing all year round, and I think for me, I need to be able to. It'd be nice to secure some more regular work. So we do an awful lot on demand. It'd be nice to have more every Monday. We're doing a stock transfer here to here, for example, and that would be good, more sort of predictable revenue and workload. But yeah, that's would say the overall ways that we manage it.
We are also affected by seasonality, and I was going to say maybe with you it's the type of businesses that you work with, but you also have different industries or different customers in different industries, right? I think you mentioned pharmaceutical, and there's just different lots of different types of industries. I think law you mentioned earlier, engineering.
Yeah.
So it's not an industry thing, is it, for you?
No, exactly. That's what amazes me, and we can look back at all the data that Ben's got from the last 8 years, and the same months are the busy months. Sort of May, June, July, August, September, particularly busy, peaking September time. So yeah, I'm sure there, like we say, as we dig into it, there'll be more. But yeah, the law firms that come on busy similar times. The like engineering, manufacturing, do lots in print, commercial print. The pharma, we support some hospitals, so it's fairly consistent. But it's really interesting. So yeah, if anyone's got any ideas of people that are particularly busy throughout the winter, then let me know. I'll come knocking.
For us, it's interesting because December is a quiet month for us, and August is always a really quiet month for us. And maybe sometimes we have something in Easter time as well. So it tends to go with the summer, with the kids' holidays. Maybe that's what it is for us. Because we sell phone systems to multiple industries like you do with your business. So it's not really an industry thing for us. It's more, it's something else. We're still trying to figure out. But another thing is maybe it's mindset. Maybe it's our team thinks there is a seasonality coming, therefore they push less hard. I don't know. Maybe there's something around that as well, or a combination of both things.
Yeah, that's it. Like I say, we need to question things, but it is interesting. We've got data from nearly a decade, so it's interesting that is the case. But we want to be busy, definitely busy all the time. So it's something that we'll continue to work on.
You mentioned something that was quite interesting last time, is that you said that you consider yourself to be in a boring industry.
Yeah,
touch on this a little bit.
Traditional, unsexy.
But explain why is that a good thing? Because I'm also in a boring industry. Telecoms. People consider it to be just a utility, quite boring. I find it super interesting. Others don't. Maybe that's one of the reasons that somebody that's graduating from university wouldn't necessarily go and say, "I'm going to become a telecom specialist."
Yeah.
But why is that a good thing from your perspective?
Yeah, exactly. They do say that I suppose the more entrepreneurial bright sparks, they're looking at like the funky on-trend industries, and there's a lot to do with AI, and then that gets super sort of populated, too many people in it, very crowded, and it's harder to succeed and stand out. We know that industries like transport, like telecoms, like storage, they're needed. They are an essential part of so many people's lives, whether you're a business or a consumer. And due to that, there's lots of demand and lots of need for it. And I think for a long time, there's been, I'd say, very traditional businesses that are in it, and they haven't necessarily had to innovate loads, and they haven't had to worry about the branding, the websites, and lots of things. So for us coming into it with all the knowledge of the traditional, but with the added spark and the insight into some of the technology that we can build and the brand that we can build, which has worked wonders, we thought we could do some real damage within it. But then you look at the data and you look at the businesses that need it. So there's an awful lot of money to be made if you get it right. And I think I look at Brewdog, obviously it's gone down the pan a bit now, but there was a time where absolutely flying. And again, you think being able to disrupt and get into that industry, there's massive billion-dollar players within it that have always been in it, and their generational sort of wealth there and the position that they're in. But everyone wants a beer. So if you're able to get in, same with coffee shops, if you get a good coffee shop, you think, blimey, there's so many coffee shops. But if you do it differently, there's so much demand for it. So that was the thing with us. We know there's a lot to be had. We just need to work a bit harder, knock on some more doors, get everything else right, and there's a lot to be achieved there.
I completely identify with that. And with telecoms, there's so many dinosaurs in the telecoms industry. Companies that have just done it the same way forever because that's the way they've always done it. And you get these modern business industries, or AI-based companies and SaaS-based companies that are coming in following the YC or Silicon Valley model, where they fast growth, VC funded, and they work in a different way. They work with modern growth marketing techniques, and there's just a different mindset. More of a hacky, really working really hard to grow the business with modern ways. So if you take that approach of a modern business mixed with a boring industry, like we say, that's a recipe for disruption here, because they're ripe, they're ready for disruption. These businesses have been doing it the same way for all these years because nobody else has been there to challenge them. Now, if you take a modern business technique and you pair it with an old legacy industry, you've got something really special. And that's what I think we're doing with Olati and with our company, but that's exactly what you're doing as well with Send It.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you only have to look around. Every time I'm driving around, if I see a commercial vehicle, I'm looking at the brand on that. What does it say? Does it stand out? Do I have a clue what they do just from looking at it? And 95% of the time, no matter, to be honest, what industry, definitely in the delivery game, but the branding is very poor and it just doesn't look great. And it's James Garbett Transport is written on the side of it.
Exactly.
And it's just,
and then you look at, they've probably got a mobile number advertised. Then you look at their website and it's looked like it's been designed in 2010. And then you look at the socials and there's no presence on there. You need to feel the energy. You need to see, I think there's going to be a big shift now with the amount of content that's been out there, and with AI being allowing you to make a lot more content.
Yeah.
There's going to be businesses are going to grow with, rather than product-led growth, and you're going to see more founder-led growth. People are going to be like us now, talking to each other, but also to the world. It's going to be people buying from people that they know and they can trust, and they share their worldview because they're out there. And I think James, it was an example of a so-and-so logistics company that is just got it printed on the van. That's the legacy side. They wouldn't even think of approaching their business marketing and growth in this way. That's the way that I think it needs to happen going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. I think LinkedIn is a big lever for us, and me and Ben have both targeted ourselves to ensure that we are posting regularly. And I think the saying goes, and the data shows, that consistency wins every day over quality if you continue to post, which is potentially a bit sad. But yeah, if you continue that, people drop off. Like even me, the last couple of weeks, I haven't been as hot on it. Had a few other things going on. But I did find, and I still found, it's proved dividends with one business over there, but just people reaching out and wanting conversations like this is great. And I've recently been in to visit a prospect and they already knew who I was. And that's
amazing.
That's the truth.
That's exactly it. And you said did you say you won a customer from a post?
Yeah, won a customer from a post, had multiple conversations from post or like direct messages. And we're always looking for sort of businesses and people to connect with there, and equally not being super salesy, just you're in an industry, really interested in that industry. One of the sort of 5 key ones that we work within. What are you up to at the moment? How do things look? Are you busy? And just sort of gather that connection. And then before you know it, like I've got 2,500 sort of followers on LinkedIn now. So a long way to go. But you've got people within your network that whenever you post, they are potentially going to see that, and that's free.
Yeah.
So
consistency compounds as well. Every time you post, it compounds. What did you actually post when you got that client from the post? What was it? Did you put a post up and they commented and then you DM'd them? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, one wrote on it. Give me love to learn more. Send me of your details. Sort of led to a call. I'm trying to, I can't remember that specific post, but I do stuff that's relatable to a certain industry. I do things that are topical around the news, and then try and lead it back some way to same day deliveries, and that's support of that. But I think you don't want to be too pushy. Some aren't sort of related at all. But yeah, no, it's a really, really interesting space that we need to continue to learn about. And I pull the data from it and look at the impressions, the likes, the engagement, and what's working and why it's working, and then double down on that. That's brilliant.
Did you use? Have you ever tried using an external agency for this?
So it's really interesting. We have, I suppose maybe agency isn't the correct word, but we've worked with someone recently and spent several thousand on that. And we did the same with some film production. And overall, our reflection is we're better off doing it ourselves. I think with AI, and we know how great Claude is, and you can get led down a bit of a river with some AI, and you've got to question it. And if you were lazy before AI, you'll be lazy with AI. But I think overall, we know we know what we're doing. I'm fine in front of camera, and I think we're going to continue to do a lot of the sort of the marketing and the LinkedIn outreach and some of that automation ourselves now versus going to an agency. It might be that we work with someone in the future, and especially for a newer business where you're limited on certain resources. I think we feel that we're better off having a go at it and ultimately learning. That if we just offload it to someone else every time we have something that we want to do or build, then we're no better off come the end of it. So I think it's important for us to learn how to market ourselves, how to speak to camera. It's just getting those drivers to speak to camera and be on film, which I'm struggling with. They're not super keen, but it's interesting.
I agree with that, because if you outsource, you can always hire an agency or hire a guy, a professional, and just pass the buck and let them deal with it. But the biggest problem is that you won't learn how to do it, and the best way to learn is by doing it and getting the scar tissue yourself and just realizing what you need to do to adjust and pivot. That's the approach that we've taken, because we've also used external agencies and it just doesn't work. Touching on the point that you said about the drivers, what is your idea with the drivers also posting on social media? Because I want my team to go on social media. I want to create like a show with characters, like a Netflix show with characters, and each one of the members of the team is a member of the show, and they have their own personal brand, and it all ties into the company brand. I think that's the future of marketing. It's creating that building in public, and being open about it and being real.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's not so much the drivers having their own Instagrams, but which would be very interesting. But it's just enabling us to do like ride-alongs, for example, go out and see the customers with them, get bits of film, them loading, showing the care that they have when they're
like a day in the life
loading. Yeah, a day in the life, we strapped a camera to the side of a van. And we've had one driver, Adam, who's actually very good and has enjoyed being on film. And it would be interesting, I don't know whether we were able to add this in and flash it up, but we did do a Drive to Survive, from Netflix. We did that style, a couple of reels, so sort of 45, 60 second odd reels around Send It Direct and within that sort of Drive to Survive feel. So interviewing with sort of the spotlight on them and then going out, and we've got a couple of those which involve a driver and they did very well, and that's really interesting.
So starting a business isn't easy.
We actually had a driver banned
from driving for 12 months, which for a logistic business is a nightmare.
Will you name the driver?
He's sat to the right of me.
We had to find somebody in a bit of an emergency. Adam was quite a find.
We'll do anything from navigating the tight city streets of London to sending it up the M6 all the way to Manchester. We got you covered.
Very tall. Coached the GB team in 2012. We always say to our customers that we are an extension of you when we're out there delivering on your behalf. we want to be representing you. And Adam is a perfect representative of any company.
So you're telling me basically saving lives?
Saving lives on the daily basis.
And genuinely cares about the goods that he's moving.
And we use the guy to support with that, Will, who's amazing. So yeah, it's fun, and that's the whole thing. Again, going back to the industry, no one's doing that. No one's really doing much social media. No one's with the camera in this industry. No one's showing much. So if you add a bit of flavour, personality to it, it goes a long way. And it's the drivers at the end of the day are arguably the most important part of the business. They are the ones that, no matter how good or not I am at pitching and bringing customers on, I'm not the one that's delivering the goods. I'm not the one that's going to go and make sure that your goods are strapped up, secure, and it's going to arrive on time, deliver on time. You're going to shake their customer's hand and make sure that their customer is happy with the goods. So I think that will help us if we can show how great our drivers are by getting them on film. But a lot of them at the moment aren't super keen to become Insta famous themselves. So we'll get there.
I think it's definitely the right approach. And it's about making them realize that whether they like it or not, they have their own personal brand. It's just that they, might not have it really public. Everybody's got their personal brand, and that's who they are. That's their personality. And showing people for who they really are is what I think you can see the realness. And when you see that realness in people online, that's what makes you engaged, and that's what makes you really trust the brand and trust the company behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
What's your for content? What does your workflow look like in terms of AI? What are you using AI for content right now?
So we use Claude mainly to support with coming up with different ideas, I suppose, and we structure it, like I say, based on sort of it might be industry specific stuff and into the news and those types of things, and then we'll use something like Canva to support, and then we use a video editing tool called Opus Clip to help us. Something like a podcast, for example, we could take this and cut it down so we just get sort of 20-second snippets of it because no one's got any attention span anymore. So yeah, not loads of different tools, and I think we've started to use what's it called, edits. Is it edits on edits for the social media side of things? So it's great for Instagram. You can take lots of individual videos and sort of edit it, clip it together. So that's been good. So yeah, 3 or 4 sort of tools, all free or very cheap, and it's just learning how to use them better. We don't have we just use our phones as well, and we've got a microphone, but we eventually, like I say, we can invest more into that as things improve.
With AI, it's almost like it's tempting to start putting content out there that is, because you can produce so much content with AI. And I started my personal brand 8 months ago or so, and I started from an idea. I have a brain dump, which is a main idea that I want to talk about. I normally dictate it into the computer or into my phone, and then the transcription of that goes into the beginning of the workflow. And then that brain dump, which is normally a huge block of unstructured text, gets filtered through a number of prompts, and it creates me a blog post, it creates me a YouTube script, it creates me 5 or 6 LinkedIn posts, and a whole water flow of content. Recently, I'm thinking that maybe, and even though I've inserted my writing style into Claude, into the workflow, by giving it samples of things that I've written manually and spent a lot of time and effort writing. And it is coming out looking kind of like I'd write it. There's still the more I'm reading it, the more I'm sensing that maybe it's a little bit bland. Maybe it's lacking a little bit of humanism to it. And also, that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that because it's kind of cheap and easy to create content now, I'm producing a ton of content in terms of the video stuff is happening because I'm doing these podcasts and stuff, but I'm talking about more the text-based content. Because I'm doing these brain dumps, it's breaking it down into 15, 20 LinkedIn posts. And I'm overdoing it, I think. I think I'm putting too much out there. And that's resulting in the content being diluted and the actual attention or the impressions per post being reduced. So I'm thinking of dialing it down a little bit and reducing the quantity, but improving the quality and seeing how that impacts things. Because I've noticed the impressions have dropped over the last 3-4 months since I've increased the quantity. So it's a balancing act, isn't it, with AI and content generation of how much you put out there? Because I just thought the more you put out there, the more views you're going to get. It's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the start, the consistency at the moment does win overall, but you've got to be consistently putting out something that's interesting, relevant to that person. I think with LinkedIn, I can't remember the statistic at the moment, but they say out of everyone on LinkedIn, it might be under 5% of people that actually contribute, as in post content. So I'm sure that number is going to go up because it's easier now and they don't have to think as hard. But yeah, the minute there's more people doing it, you've got to think differently. I think it's super obvious at times when people are posting using Claude to just transcribe and come up with the content when they just don't edit it enough and there's loads of hyphens everywhere. I saw someone the other week actually copy and paste the whole thing. So it obviously Claude at the bottom suggested some other things and they posted that part of it as well. But,
if you want, I can break this down into a Twitter post for you as well.
Like Jesus. But I find that I write it and then put it in to can this be better? I might use it to find some data that I can include, but I would never leave it just to write the whole thing, which again takes more time, but it's more quality. Sure.
Yeah. Right now, my workflow is I use the brain dump for the generic, not generic, but the breakdown post. I'm gonna dial it down. So instead of doing 50, maybe I'll do 3 or 4 of those. But then I'm also finding that I'm doing more ad hoc posts. So if something comes to mind, if I see a post of something that's gone out, like yesterday, Chamath Palihapitiya, who runs Social Capital in the US, basically a big investor in tech.
Yeah.
He's speaking about AI and how it's going to transform industries and how the price of tokens is going to come down to zero eventually, because obviously Anthropic is charging a ton of money for their tokens and OpenAI is similar priced. But then you got the likes of Elon's XAI and now Kimi, the Chinese one, which are charging like 50 times less. And they're getting good. And it's almost like as good as Anthropic. And in fact, some would argue better. So it's inevitable that the price of those tokens will come down. So anyway, I watched the video and it kind of clicked. It made sense. So I wrote a little post about that as I reshared his content. And I'm doing more like that. And I'm finding that those are literally my brain dumps, but live, like real time. I'm typing it as I'm going. I'm like a keyboard warrior typing those out. Maybe those work better than the scheduled ones, or maybe combining them both. I'm still trying to figure out what works, but I think that realism, people appreciate the realism, like on the keyboard, real, rather than just cleansing it through AI.
Yeah, I was amazed. I was going to see if I could quickly pull it up, so it was I could have a look. But so I had my best performing post is one that I wrote about Asda and their delivery. They obviously run a home delivery service for their groceries, and that's fallen off and they've lost market share. So they've signed a deal with Ocado to use their tech. So again, lots of parallels with Send It Direct, but fundamentally delivery failures cost their market share. So there's lots of parallels with what we do. That got over 20,000 impressions. And I had sort of tens of followers from that. And it said it reached nearly 18,000 profiles. So that was a free post. Haven't paid anything for that. Hadn't sort of boosted it. And it amazes me how it just kept going as well. I would keep posting other posts, but for over a month, people were commenting, liking, sharing it. And it's wondering sort of what was it there? And I think part of that, I was on the money. I was very quick to posting. So it was a news story and I got on it straight away. Like it was just come out, so some people had just seen it for the first time via me versus the Times or the Guardian. And it was similar when
Brilliant.
Amazon did one about going into they're moving into sort of more logistics side of it and opening that up to any business. And I did the same there and got in quite quickly. So then you can become sort of more of a thought leader on it. But yeah, I've got a spreadsheet on sort of what each post, the angle, the hook, the impressions, the likes, the comments, and what I think did well about it. And
it was uniquely yours, right? Because it's in your space, and you spotted the news, you gave it your opinion, and then you're seen as the expert in the field that has given their opinion on a news story. That has more value than the actual news story by itself.
Yeah, that's it. So we'll make sure we keep getting those out, and that's, again, you can have AI sort of looking out for that and pulling it through automatically, can't you?
That's a valid point, because I just consume content like this through email, newsletters, and bits and pieces. And there was one, I think it was in February or March, that I read of a group of leaders around the world that got together. These are leaders in tech companies, undisclosed. It was like anonymous. The leaders in tech companies got together and they sat down in a room and they discussed the future of AI and how AI is going to be impacting, in particular, software engineering, so coding. And they released a report, and I downloaded the report and I read it, and a few things clicked within the report. And I did a YouTube video about what I learned from that report, and a bunch of other stuff within the YouTube video. And I just released it on a Saturday night, thinking, guys, I actually recorded it weeks before, so it wasn't even like that timely. But I released it because I had a gap in content and I didn't have anything to release, and I just thought, I'll just throw this out there, see how it does. I wasn't expecting to do anything. And the next morning, I woke up and I started getting new subscribers on YouTube. And then I suddenly got 1,000 views. I'm like, oh, I've got then 10,000 views. And it kept on growing. Now it's at 400,000 views on YouTube. And I gained like 8,000 subscribers just from that one single video about AI coding. Yeah. And it kind of made me realize that it made me realize, and it also it's messed me up a bit, because it made me think, okay, well, is my niche AI coding? Maybe. No, it's not. I'm a founder that does AI coding. It just happens to be that I just picked, I found a wave without realizing I was finding a wave, and I just rode the wave. It's about, and having heard your story now, it's literally about putting your opinion on a piece of content or a piece of news. It could be anything, a news, an article, whatever it is. Something that is relevant to you because it's in your space and you have something to say about it, and then that resonates with others, and that's literally it. It doesn't need to be overthought. It's so simple. Yeah. But fabricating it is not easy.
I'm going to say you can have all of this time, data, thought, and then you do something off the cuff, and it's the best thing you've ever done. So it's frustrating. But I think, I saw a post from James Smith the other day, a fitness sort of influencer, and he's got multiple other brands now. And
he's doing marketing now. He's doing social media marketing now.
Yeah. And he showed his Facebook impressions or views, I think. And Facebook used to be his main platform. And sort of for 2.5 years, it was flatline. And then it just went boom, and it flew, and it sort of didn't stop, and it compounded. And again, he was going through his old Instagram posts and things, and they were terrible. But he got the reps in. He kept going for it. He learned more about it, got better, got more confident on camera. And again, he was doing that alongside another job, which obviously me and you have got no excuses, really. There's lots of people that are side hustling and trying to create content alongside their 9 to 5. So there's no excuse for us not to get some good stuff going. It's just, knuckling down and making sure it's sort of, it needs to be more prioritized. It's easy, like I say, customers and making sure they're happy and getting them on is number one. But then you think that if this is going to help us get more customers, it needs to be given more of the priority that it deserves, I suppose.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Get the reps in. Keep the consistency up. Keep the reps coming in, because the challenging part is that you're doing something that takes quite a lot of effort, and you're not seeing the immediate result. Like when you knock on somebody's door, within about a few minutes, am I going to get this deal? Am I likely to get it? Yes or no? So it's like an immediate reward, or not a reward. At least right? But with the social media posts, you just don't know, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. But it's not just new business that can come from it. It's like you're growing, you're building the brand that then affects everything from new business to new hires to potential future, recognition and value that you're creating for others to learn about.
Yeah.
In your case, the logistics industry, or for me, AI and telecoms and business. It's a no-brainer. I think it's worth the effort, but also I enjoy it. I enjoy doing things like this and sharing what I even if nobody watches. Who cares? I'm enjoying myself. That's the main thing.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, definitely. It's cool.
In your case, what does, for your business where you are now, if you were to fast forward 5 years, what does it look like? Are you in Barcelona at this point? What does the business look like operationally? What's the size? What does Send It look like in 5 years?
So I'm, whether I'm on a beach, I'm never on a beach because I enjoy it like yourself. So I think
you get bored.
Anyone that's built something is always going to want to be there. But it's very, very, it doesn't need me or Ben, I suppose, is the overall statement. It's running incredibly well. We own all of the technology software that the business uses. We started selling that software to more traditional companies. Some competitors using that and paying us as a sort of a subscription for it. We've got a very robust driver network that are all Send It Direct, whether they're employed or not. We've got hundreds of drivers that are wearing our t-shirts and our brand, and very proud to represent that. And they offer a fantastic service and are strictly governed by the technology and the operational staff that we have in Bristol. We have an office within Bristol, which will allow us to get within the hires that we have and grow that team out. And we're going to be hiring people that aren't necessarily transport professionals. They're just fantastic, friendly, nice, caring, thoughtful people. And the transport element can be learned, and the technology allows them to quote and do all of that stuff incredibly quickly and efficiently. But the nice, friendly people that can look after the customers isn't easy. We'll have acquired a couple of traditional courier companies and brought them into our network, so bolting on hundreds of thousands, if not more, revenue, and giving them our technology and improving their service. I see that as a good way for us to drive on top of the work that I'm doing to bring organic sort of customers on. And then, we'll have a team of account managers that looks after and manages them, and we'll always have someone fishing. But then I'll be brought in ultimately to maybe close and support with some of the larger deals that we work on. But I won't be needed to do all the cold calling and the cracking the ice to get them over. And then we'll
knocking on the doors.
That's it. We'll be very stickier. We'll have a bit more of a sort of a fort around us. What I mean by that is we'll be integrated with businesses via an API which we've built, which I did mention. So retailers will be able to offer, or other businesses that are more techie or have websites can offer same-day delivery via Send It Direct completely seamlessly through their website. And once you're integrated like that you're much stickier. If a competitor knocks on the door, it's like, well, look, great service, we're integrated. Why would we move? That's sort of the overall of it. And then on top of the acquisition of other traditional courier companies that need a bit of a branding and need the technology that will come into our database. Through that, I see us acquiring warehousing and storage. So currently I've got a very good friend of mine that owns lots of storage around the Southwest in particularly, and we offer that to our customers. And I want to own that ourselves. So we've actually got another business that we've created that can ultimately hold the storage side of things. So we'll have the IP in a company, the technology, the storage in a company, and then the delivery partners and the side of it. But storage goes hand in hand. And that will work well within our ecosystem.
You've got the whole 5-year plan. What is it, like a 25-page document here? Because you've got it all sussed out here.
Yeah, I've been looking at it more recently. And again, transcribing lots of ideas and things like that. But like, I want to be in a, we're going really well, but I want to be in a good position financially, because it's all well and good the company's flying, but it's one thing being able to actually pull the money out as well, and obviously a lot of it gets reinvested. So I know we're going to be very successful longer term, but in order to expedite that growth and not be old and grey, enjoying the wealth, I think a few of those things, like an acquisition, will help with that over the next couple of years.
And how have you considered funding that? Have you considered doing it with equity or debt or something else?
Yeah, I think leveraging debt. And what's the other interesting thing that we found in this space is that, well, pros and cons of it, but traditional courier companies aren't worth a lot. As we know, if we're a tech business, the multiplier is much higher. But their traditional courier company is 1 times, 1.5 times. But some of the margins are pretty decent. And the customers, they might have worked with a customer for 20 years. And me going and knocking on that door of that customer, so I could offer our service and branding and tech might be much better, but they've got a relationship with John, and John's been servicing them for 20 years. And the only way that I can see us getting those is by acquisition. But like I say, they're not worth a huge amount really when you look at what they do. So by pulling them in and having that extra profit and revenue, it is a lot. It's a lot more for us as a business, and then ultimately we sell potentially years and years down the line. So I think, if you're acquiring it and bringing it into a model that is bulletproof and working and it's got everything, and we can actually make efficiencies straight away, and they're paying huge subscriptions for technology, and they've got another accountant, and they've got these drivers that are farting around doing something, then we bring it in super professional, strip some of those things in, and actually improve the experience for those businesses that they're customers. It seems like a no-brainer for me. And it's learning more about leveraging debt. I was with someone last night talking around that, and sort of finance company, and then it's persuading everyone else in the business that it's a good idea. But I have run some numbers, and you shouldn't have to put much of our own money in really, and we can make sure that we acquire the business, a bit of money up front, and then over the next couple of years that's tied to some sort of strict metrics in terms of the performance, and if they hit that, they get the remaining money, but a lot of that comes out of the revenue from the business that we've just acquired. So I'm well up for that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you've definitely got something special here, especially when you combine the people side of the business, making sure that the drivers are the happy, friendly, and really good people, which is the people that are meeting your customers and your customers' customers. But then pairing that with the technology being efficient and being a modern business in a boring legacy industry, but being a modern, forward-thinking business with advanced tech. Those two pairings is something special there. You're at the intersection of that, and I think that's special.
Yeah.
So, James, if somebody wants to reach you or send it, how can they get hold of you?
So they can reach out via LinkedIn. So just James Garbett. They can send it direct by looking at senditdirect.co.uk. And on that is a telephone number. And our I suppose, the general inquiries email is just sales@senditdirect.co.uk. And there's multiple people that look at that. But if you want me, start with LinkedIn. And if I like you, I'll give you my mobile number.
And if somebody, let's picture you back in your London days when you were about to leave the big company to start this. If somebody's in that position now, what's one piece of advice that you'd tell them?
I think you've got to take the risk. And do you want to be working for someone else for your whole life? And the answer for me was no. And it's ultimately the currency that we're working in now really is the freedom, the flexibility, and the ownership of something. I'm actually not paid as much as I was still. but I know that's coming and I can see how well the business is doing, and that's because we're putting it back into the business. But the flexibility, the time with Oscar, my son, my partner, friends, family, all of that, which gets more and more important the older you get. So yeah, that's a big thing. But advice is just, it's the standard stuff, isn't it? Taking the risk. Is your time worth the 30, 40, 50, 60 grand that you're getting paid? And starting, as we said with James Smith, you've got to get the reps in. So I had other businesses, some more successful than others. Along the way, I rented technology out to students. I was manufacturing fitness products, dumbbells throughout COVID. And there was lots of learnings from that, from my side, on top of what Ben had done previously, that I was able to do straight away and not make those mistakes again. So the first thing you do is unlikely to do well. So get your reps in and try something at the side of your desk.
Take the risk when it feels right, get the reps in, and keep that grit so you keep on going.
Yeah, it's all the classic stuff, isn't it? But it's true. I often see podcasts that they've got a hook and you need to learn this and you can do that and here's the secret sauce, but a lot of it all goes back down to that. And then, just like we were saying about the posting, it's the consistency of it. Like
hard work.
I set my first business up in 2014, and obviously it was only 2 years ago that I was able to quit everything and go all in on Send It. Also, going all in, as much as we said to start with, have a bit of the side hustle. But ultimately, I was still doing some of the other ventures at the start of Send It for the first year, and business partners were aware of that, and they actually liked it, and they were supporting with bits of it. And because we had the delivery operation, we could run some of that delivery, some of the products for this other business. And a year ago, I sort of switched that off, and again, that was another great stage and something that you do need to do. You hear that again. You can't have too many plates. You can have plates within the one business, the core business. But if you're going out and doing a few different things, and I think it's important for me to be known as James Garbett, the on-demand, same-day, final mile delivery expert, not James Garbett, the guy who's good at this, good at that, loves business. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what does James stand for?
You have to focus. You have to focus and become an expert at one thing and just pick your lane and just own it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's a great point to finish on. I agree with that. James, thank you so much for being here. There was a great conversation.
Amazing. Yeah. Axel, thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing it.
Likewise.
Cheers. Have a good one.